I'm Helen, 68 years old, and I never thought my own daughter would rip my heart out in front of a room full of people. At my grandson's baby shower, she called her mother-in-law the only true grandmother, dismissing me like I was nothing. I left without a word, but the next morning, what I left at her door changed everything. If you're watching, comment below. Has your own family ever betrayed you? Like this video if you think I deserve to be heard. And subscribe to see how I stood up for myself. Your support can make this story go viral. Let's show the world women like me won't stay silent. It started with love, as most stories do. My daughter Lisa was my world. I raised her alone after her father left when she was 5. A deadbeat who never looked back. I worked 2 jobs, mornings at a diner, evenings as a grocery clerk, to keep a roof over our heads. Our apartment was small, the walls thin, but I made it home. I'd braid Lisa's hair before school, tell her stories of my childhood in the countryside, and save pennies to buy her a new dress for her birthday. When she cried for her dad, I'd hold her, saying, "We're enough, you and me," and we were. I gave up dreams of my own, a teaching degree, a little house with a garden, to give her a future. I thought that's what mothers did, sacrifice everything. Lisa grew up bright and strong. She was my pride, the girl who won spelling bees and hugged me tight when I came home exhausted. When she met Tom at 25, I was thrilled. He was kind, steady, a mechanic with a good heart. I paid for their small wedding. $3,000 from my savings, even though it meant skipping my own bills for months. I ate canned soup to afford her dress, a simple white gown that made her glow. At the reception, she toasted me, saying, "Mom, you're my rock," I cried, thinking we'd always be close. When she got pregnant 3 years later, I was over the moon. A grandson! I started knitting tiny blue booties, dreaming of holding him. Singing the same lullabies I sang to Lisa. I saved $500 for a crib, bought baby clothes on sale, and planned to be the best grandma. The baby shower was Lisa's idea. Held at her mother-in-law Nancy's house. A big place with a manicured lawn and a porch swing. Nancy was Tom's mom, a polished woman who ran a bakery and always wore pearls. I liked her well enough, though she'd correct my table manners or mention her expensive vacations, things I could never afford. I didn't mind. I was there for Lisa and my grandson. I arrived early, carrying a homemade quilt I'd spent weeks stitching. Each square a memory of Lisa's childhood, a patch from her old school uniform, a scrap from her prom dress. It cost me nothing but time, but it was priceless to me. I wore my best dress, a navy one I'd bought secondhand, and brought a $50 gift card for baby supplies, all I could spare. The house was buzzing, pink and blue balloons. A table of cupcakes, relatives and friends chatting. I helped set up, arranging napkins, smiling at guests. Lisa looked radiant, her belly round with my grandson. I hugged her, whispering, "I'm so proud of you." She smiled but seemed distracted, talking mostly to Nancy's friends. I didn't think much of it. Baby showers are hectic. Then came the speeches. Tom thanked everyone, his arm around Lisa. Nancy went next, gushing about how she'd be the best grandma ever, showing off a fancy stroller she'd bought. The room clapped and I smiled, waiting my turn. Lisa stepped up, holding a glass of sparkling juice, and my heart swelled. I expected her to mention me, her mom, who'd given everything. Instead, she said, "I want to thank the only true grandmother my baby will ever have, Nancy." The room went quiet. I felt my face burn like I'd been slapped. Only true grandmother? I looked at Lisa, waiting for her to correct herself, to laugh it off. But she didn't. She hugged Nancy, who beamed, while guests murmured. My hand shook, clutching the quilt. 50 years flashed before me. Every late shift. Every missed meal. Every tear I shed to raise her. And now I was nothing? Erased in front of strangers? Nancy caught my eye, smirking slightly, as if she'd won something. I wanted to scream, to ask Lisa why, but my throat closed up. I stood, my chair scraping loudly, and walked out. No one stopped me. The quilt stayed on the table, forgotten. Outside, the air was cold, cutting through my thin dress. I walked to my car, tears streaming down my face. I drove home, the road blurring, replaying Lisa's words. Only true grandmother. Had I failed her? Was I not enough? Examples of my sacrifices flooded my mind. When Lisa was 12, I worked overtime to buy her a violin for music class. even though it meant no new coat for me that winter. When she broke her ankle at 16, I sat by her hospital bed all night, holding her hand, paying the bill with money I'd saved for rent. I gave her everything, but she chose Nancy, wealthy, polished Nancy, over me. At home, I sat in my dark apartment, the silence heavy. My phone buzzed, Lisa texting, "Mom, where'd you go?" I didn't reply. How could I? She'd humiliated me, made me feel like a stranger at my own grandson's shower. I looked at the baby booties I'd knitted, now pointless. I cried until my eyes were dry, feeling the weight of years spent giving. But as the night wore on, a spark lit inside me. I wasn't done. I had one last thing to say, not with words, but with action. What I left at her door the next morning would shock them all. The night after the baby shower, I sat in my dark apartment, the silence louder than ever. Lisa's words echoed. Only true grandmother. I'd raised her alone, worked 2 jobs, given up everything to make her life better, and she dismissed me like I was nothing. My phone buzzed with her text. "Mom, where'd you go? You left so suddenly." Suddenly? She'd humiliated me in front of a room full of strangers, and she called it sudden? I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering, wanting to scream every hurt she'd caused. But I didn't reply. Words felt useless. I needed something bigger, something that would make her see me, not the invisible mom she'd thrown away, but the woman who'd carried her through life. The next morning, Lisa called. I let it ring, my heart pounding. When she left a voicemail, her voice was light, like nothing had happened. "Mom, I'm sorry you left early. Can we talk?" The shower was so nice, and Nancy was thrilled. "Call me back. Nice? Thrilled?" I replayed the message, each word a fresh cut. No apology for what she said, no mention of my quilt, my gift, my presents. I thought of the years I'd sacrificed, skipping meals to buy her school supplies, working overtime to pay for her violin lessons, selling my only nice dress to cover her college books. Once, when Lisa was 15, she wanted to go to a summer camp. It cost $200, more than I had. I cleaned extra houses that month, my hands raw from bleach, to send her. She came back glowing, hugging me, saying, "You're the best." Mom, where was that Lisa now? I didn't call back, but the guilt crept in. Maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe she didn't mean it. I drove to her house, a cozy place she and Tom bought with a loan I co-signed, risking my credit when I could barely afford my own rent. I stood at their door, holding a tin of cookies I'd baked, my peace offering, a habit from years of smoothing things over. Lisa opened the door, smiling, but it faded when she saw my face. "Mom, you're here!" I was worried. I wanted to believe her, but her eyes darted away, like she knew she'd hurt me. I stepped inside, and there was Nancy, sitting at the kitchen table, sipping tea like she owned the place. The quilt I'd made, the one with patches of Lisa's childhood, sat folded in a corner, untouched. "Mom, sit down," Lisa said, her voice too cheerful. "Let's talk about the shower." I sat, the tin of cookies heavy in my hands. Nancy leaned forward, her pearls gleaming, and said, "It was such a lovely event. Helen, the stroller I got them is top of the line. Babies need the best, don't they?" Her tone was smug, like she was the star of the day. I nodded, my throat tight, waiting for Lisa to mention me. My quilt, my love for my grandson. Instead, she said, "Nancy's been so amazing, Mom. She's already planning to babysit every weekend, setting up a nursery at her house. She's the perfect grandma." Perfect? The word stung, echoing her only true grandmother speech. I looked at Lisa, searching for the daughter I raised, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Lisa," I said, my voice shaking, "what about me? I'm his grandmother too." She fidgeted, glancing at Nancy. "Of course. Mom, but Nancy's got more time, more resources. She's retired, you know. You're still working and—" Her voice trailed off, but the message was clear. I wasn't enough. Nancy smiled, patting Lisa's hand. "Helen, you're welcome to visit, but babies need stability. I've got the space, the money. Money, stability. Words that cut deeper than knives. I'd worked my whole life to give Lisa stability, going hungry so she could eat, staying up nights to help with her homework. And now, because I wasn't wealthy like Nancy, I was less. I stood, my cookies still unopened. "Lisa, at the shower, you called Nancy the only true grandmother. Do you know what that did to me?" Her face flushed. "Mom, I didn't mean it like that. It just came out. Everyone was praising Nancy, and I got caught up." "Caught up?" I wanted to scream. You erased me, I said. I raised you alone. I gave everything, $3,000 for your wedding. $500 for that crib, my heart for you and your son. And you made me feel like nothing. Nancy chimed in, her voice syrupy. Helen, don't be dramatic. Lisa's just excited. We all want what's best for the baby. Dramatic? I looked at them. Mother and daughter-in-law united against me. I left the cookies on the table and walked out, my heart heavier than ever. Back home, I sat with my pain, replaying every sacrifice. When Lisa was 8, she got sick with pneumonia. I sat by her hospital bed for 3 days, paying $200 I didn't have, borrowing from a neighbor to cover it. When she graduated high school, I threw her a party, spending $400 on food and decorations, even though it meant no electricity for a week. Every choice I made was for her, but she'd chosen Nancy's wealth over my love. The village gossip started, Lisa's friends, Nancy's neighbors, whispering I was jealous or petty for leaving the shower. Tom called saying, Mom, don't make this a big deal. Lisa's stressed with the baby coming. Stressed? What about my stress, my humiliation? The pressure grew. Lisa's aunt, my sister-in-law, called. Helen, let it go. Be the bigger person. You don't want to lose your daughter. Lose her? I'd already lost her to Nancy's perfect nursery and fancy stroller. Friends texted, urging me to apologize, to keep the peace. But peace had cost me everything. My dreams, my savings, my pride. I wasn't doing it anymore. That night I made a decision. Words weren't enough to make Lisa see me. I needed to do something bold. Something that would show her, Nancy, the whole family, who I was. I stayed up planning, my hands steady with purpose. It wasn't anger driving me, it was love for myself for the first time. By dawn I was ready. I drove to Lisa's house, my heart pounding but sure. What I left at her door wasn't just a thing, it was a statement, a reclaiming of my place. When they found it, the family's jaws dropped. Lisa called, her voice shaking. Mom, what is this? I didn't answer yet. Let them feel the shock, the way I felt at the shower. Lisa's call came at dawn, her voice trembling. Mom, what is this? I didn't answer, letting the weight of my actions sit. I'd driven to her house before sunrise, my heart steady with a purpose I hadn't felt in years. At her doorstep, I left the quilt I'd made for the baby shower, each patch a piece of Lisa's childhood, stitched with love from my sleepless nights. Pinned to it was a letter, 7 pages long, written in my careful handwriting. It detailed every sacrifice I'd made, the $3,000 for her wedding, eating canned soup to afford it, the $200 hospital bill for her pneumonia, paid by borrowing from a neighbor, the $400 high school party that left me without electricity. I wrote about the nights I cried alone, raising her without a father, and the love I poured into her, only to be erased at the shower. You called Nancy the only true grandmother, I wrote. But I'm your mother, Lisa. I'm his grandmother too. If you can't see me, this quilt is my last gift. I stayed home waiting, my phone silent. By noon, Tom called. Helen, Lisa's a mess. She read your letter. Everyone's talking about it. Talking? Good. Let them feel the shock I felt when Lisa's words cut me down. I imagined her opening the door, seeing the quilt, unfolding the letter with Nancy and Tom beside her. The family gathered, Lisa's aunt, cousins, Nancy's friends, reading my words, their faces pale. I didn't write to shame Lisa. I wrote to be seen. For 50 years I'd been invisible, working 2 jobs, skipping meals, co-signing loans for her house. I'd given $500 for the crib, knitted booties, poured my heart into being a grandma. But Lisa chose Nancy's money, her fancy nursery, over me. The letter was my voice, loud and clear. I'm here. I matter. Lisa showed up that evening, her eyes red, the quilt in her arms. Mom, why didn't you tell me? She said, stepping inside. Tell you what? I asked, my voice calm but firm. How much I gave up, how much it hurt when you called Nancy the only grandmother. She sat, clutching the quilt. I didn't mean it, Mom. I was caught up in the moment. Nancy's been so involved, and I thought... She trailed off, tears falling. Nancy's involvement. I remembered Nancy's smirk at the shower, her words in the kitchen. Babies need stability. Looked at Lisa. You thought her money made her better? I raised you alone, Lisa. I went hungry so you could eat. That quilt is your life, stitched by me. And you threw it away. She sobbed, but I wasn't done. Nancy arrived, her pearls gleaming, her face tight. Helen, this is a misunderstanding. Lisa didn't mean to hurt you. I stood, taller than I'd ever felt. Nancy, you knew what she said. You smirked while I was humiliated. You want to be the true grandmother? Fine, but don't expect me to fade away. Nancy flinched, her confidence cracking. Helen, we're family. Let's move past this. Move past? I'd moved past enough. Past Lisa's father leaving. Past years of scraping by. Past Lisa's dismissal. No, I said. Family doesn't erase family. I'm done being invisible. Lisa's aunt called later, her voice sharp. Helen, you're causing drama. That letter was cruel. Cruel? I laughed, a sound raw with years of pain. Cruel was Lisa's words at the shower. Cruel was expecting me to smile while Nancy took my place. The letter was truth. I hung up, feeling lighter. The village gossip swirled. People called me bitter, oversensitive. But others, women like me, stopped me at the market. You're brave, Helen, one said. My daughter did the same. I wish I'd spoken up. Their words were a spark, lighting something new in me. I set boundaries. I told Lisa I'd love my grandson, but I wouldn't beg for a place in his life. If you want me as his grandma, you'll respect me, I said. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. I see you now. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Tom apologized too, promising to include me. Nancy stayed quiet, her smugness gone. I started visiting, holding my grandson, singing him lullabies. His tiny hand in mine felt like healing, a new bond stronger than the hurt. At 68, I found my joy. I planted a garden, roses, daisies, herbs, watching them bloom like my spirit. I joined a book club at the library, meeting women who'd faced their own betrayals. We laughed, shared stories, became a family of choice. I sold a few quilts, earning $200 to buy new clothes. Feeling pretty for the first time in years. Lisa invited me to dinner, displaying my quilt on her son's crib, a silent acknowledgement. The gossip faded, replaced by whispers of my strength. Helen stood up, they said. And I did. If my story moved you, like this video to show you stand with brave women like me. Subscribe for more raw tales of triumph. And comment, you're a brave and strong woman, Helen. Or share your own story of standing up. Let's make this viral. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Together we break the silence.